Hey guys, enter the stars. We're going to get into an in-depth discussion regarding the roots of the Book of Enoch. I'm going to prove to you the authenticity of the Book of Enoch. We are going to go on a journey of sorts. We're going to look at antiquity. We're going to look at some of the documents from 200 BC, which is when we have established that the Book of Enoch was known about and read. And in this journey, I'm going to prove to you that Enoch knew all about the undiscovered world. How did he know about the undiscovered world? Well, we're going to get into that. We've got maps, we've got graphics, we've got everything to prove that how could he have known all that he knew written down in the Book of Enoch before any of these places were discovered. Now, I did a video on this long ago, years ago. It's one of the very first in-depth studies that I did on the Book of Enoch. And I'll be sharing screens in a second, you guys. But basically, we lined it all out. That video was gone. It needed to be remastered anyway because it was a book, or it was a study that, took some time to get through. Wasn't as good at presentation and things of that sort. So we're redoing it here today. And this is going to be an amazing journey. So, several almost complete copies of the Book of Enoch in Aramaic were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. What were the Dead Sea Scrolls? They were discovered in 1947. We're going to look at these copies of the Book of Enoch that were found with the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947. We're going to look at these copies, and we're going to look at how old they were. And we are going to look at how they actually even matched up with the Ethiopic texts that were already in existence, proving the Ethiopic text validity. And so what does that tell you? It tells you that the Ethiopians had it right all along, and including the Book of Enoch into their canon. We're going to prove that to you. We're also going to get into the 7 mountain ranges, the 7 rivers, the 7 continents, the 14 evergreen trees that Enoch spoke about that no one seems to want to talk about. But he actually predicted the entire world. He knew what it looked like. So we're going to go ahead and share screens right now and get into this information. Enoch talks about the 7 rivers he beheld upon earth, greater than all the rivers. To the 7 major river systems of the world. 7 rivers I beheld upon earth, greater than all rivers, one of which takes its course from the west into a great sea. Its river flows. Let's look at some maps on this. So the only river the large river that takes its course from the west would be the Amazon. 2 come from the north to the sea, their waters flowing into the Erythraean Sea on the east. What 2 rivers of the world, 2 river systems of the world flow from the north to their sea, to the sea? Well, one of them is the Mississippi, and one is the Ganges, flowing from its north into the sea. The one in the east is flowing to the Erythraean Sea. Of course, the Mississippi does not, but it's delineating that here. And with respect to the remaining 4, they take their course in the cavity of the north. The cavity of the north being, in my opinion, the basin, basically this whole top portion of the world. See how these other ones are differentiated. So they've got the Yangtze, this Russian river system up here. Here's the Yangtze flowing in the cavity of the north as well, which is in China. We have the Nile and the Tigris Euphrates. And that accounts for 7 of the major river systems of the world. Now, this doesn't include every single river system, but these are the major ones. The maximum amount of cubic feet of water flowing through them. It goes on to differentiate and to give you a little bit more information on these river systems. To their sea, the Erythraean Sea, I'm thinking is the Nile, Tigris, Euphrates river systems. You got to remember, this whole area in here was called the Erythraean Sea. They didn't have the names like Arabian Sea, the Mediterranean. This whole area was considered the Erythraean Sea. To poured into a great sea, where also it was said there was to be a desert. So it's differentiating out of these last 4 that they're mentioning. And I believe that these 2 that pour out into their desert would be the Yangtze and this Russian river system. I don't even know what to call it because there's so many rivers that flow into this northern Russian river system. So what you have is the Siberian desert that defines the Yangtze and this Russian river system. Great Siberian wilderness flowing where there's said to be a desert. So what's up with the Dead Sea Scrolls? The Dead Sea Scrolls, again, were discovered in 1947. Yet the book, the canon of the Bible, was not updated. Now, of course, it says here 30% of the texts from the Second Temple period, which ultimately were not canonized in the Hebrew Bible, like the Book of Enoch, Book of Jubilees, Book of Tobit, Wisdom of Sirach, Psalms. It's actually a piece of Psalms missing from your Bible, but that was found with the Dead Sea Scrolls. Yet nobody wants to know what those say. They just trust the Bible that we have today. This is the entirety of the contents of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And as you can see, 40% were the Hebrew scriptures. And then all this other stuff was included in there. Now, these are very old copies. Cave 7. They divided this discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls up into caves. They were in the Qumran caves, discovered by shepherds, Bedouins. And they divided them up because each cave had a major discovery in it. These are very old copies of Enoch dating back to 200 BCE. That's 200 years before Christ walked the earth. Again, this copy of Enoch was included in the Ethiopian current Bible, but yet apparently Christianity does not want to recognize that. Cave 7, they found a Greek copy of the scroll of Enoch. Where else did they find Enoch? In the Qumran cave Dead Sea Scroll discoveries. There are 4 privately owned scrolls from Cave 11 that have not yet been made available for scholars. Among them is a complete Aramaic manuscript of the Book of Enoch. Because this is an Aramaic, it predates the Greek copy that we just told you about. Aramaic came first, then Greek. This is a very old copy, 200 BCE or older. You see, they have a house of cards. And the house of cards is that they know that Enoch was supposed to be included, but because they missed it, they're busted. And everything else that they do is now being called into question. They would have been better off acknowledging all of the findings of the Dead Sea Scrolls, all of these works that were found, and updating the Bible and saying, look, this is God's Holy Spirit revealing all truth to us. The Council of Nicaea got it wrong. They were the ones who canonized the Bible. And now we're going to write it. But you see, they can't have that happen because it would undermine the Catholic religion, which were part and parcel of the Council of Nicaea. Those are the beginnings of the Catholic religion, and it would expose all of the lies. So this is the biggest cover-up in the history of spirituality and Christianity. And I'm going to go on now to further prove to you that Enoch knew the undiscovered world. Think about that for a second. I just showed you the 7 major river systems of the world. Here is a very cool animation of what Enoch already knew. How did Enoch know? It wasn't because Enoch was like the coolest guy ever. It's because God divulged this information to him. No. So that it could be written down, so that we could know who the one and only Most High God was. These are the 7 major river systems of the world. There's your Russia. There's your Ganges River and your Yangtze River. There's your Nile and Congo River Basin. There is Amazon and the Mississippi. Now, there are other smaller river systems, but when we look at the watersheds of the world, there are 7 basic watersheds, just as Enoch said. Let's close this up. What else did Enoch say? He talked about a mountain range. There were 7 mountain ranges. 7 high mountains I beheld, higher than all of the mountains of the earth, from which frost proceeds. So these were snow-capped mountains, while days, seasons, and years depart and pass away. And this map shows the 7 highest mountain ranges in the world. This is unbelievable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now again, this doesn't account for all of the mountain ranges of the world, but I think you can see that Enoch knew what he was talking about. Now, here's the slam dunk. The slam dunk is that Enoch also knew the 7 continents. This is unreal. 7 great islands, he calls them, in the sea and on the earth. 7 in the great sea. We all know that there are 7 continents on the earth. And so there you go. Now, Enoch also talks about 14 evergreen trees. How did Enoch know there were 14 evergreen trees? They consider and behold every tree, how it appears to wither, and every leaf to fall off, except of 14 trees, which are not deciduous, which wait from the old to the appearance of a new leaf for 2 or 3 winters. Now, this is true. If you look at evergreen trees, they go 2 or 3 winters before they get a new leaf. And there are 14 evergreen trees. I found this article talking about the general types of evergreen trees. This one shows 15, but 15 is very close to 14. And many of these types seem to overlap and overlay. They probably have subtle differences in, their descriptions and stuff like that. But in general, there's about 14 different types of evergreen trees. Now, for Enoch to have known this is unbelievable. Now, there's going to be a day of reckoning with this knowledge, okay? They can't run from this. The Dead Sea Scrolls basically exposed modern Christianity for what it was, which is they're hiding the true information, the true knowledge that leads to a stronger faith in God, salvation, and things of that sort. They're hiding it. And I want you to know these truths. They want to be the spiritual brokers. They want to have control, money, power. They basically created like a club. That's what religion has become. It's become a club. And they're all fighting to get you in their club. Okay? That's why they have all these denominations. And this is hiding in plain sight. So that is the truth behind the Dead Sea Scrolls in the Book of Enoch. You can dig into this further if you like, or many people are going to continue to buy the lie, believe their pastor when they say, well, if it wasn't in the canon, that's because of divine intervention and God didn't want it in the canon, because if he wanted it in the canon, it would have been there. Well, my answer to that is that Jesus said, beware of scribes and Pharisees, changing the Bible a jot and a tittle. Why would he put that warning in there if it never was going to happen? God knows the beginning from the end. Why would he not do that? So this is how they hide the truth, but we won't stop. We are not going to stop, you guys.